I call this meeting to order at 3:12 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Gish. Aurora Black.
Here.
Kendra Garcia is excused. Chair Gish.
Here.
Pam Parfit.
Here.
Angelique Montoya Chavez.
Here.
Miriam Jahar.
Here.
Eli Fresquez.
Here.
Gina Maria Opalescent.
Here.
And Mr. Christopher Pommier is excused. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda, and I do have some amendments. Gina Maria would like to know how long Daniel will be to not be attending this meeting.
He did not say.
Okay. My amendments to the agenda are to unless we have a member from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, to remove the two items under presentations for that committee, because no one is here to present those items. And then to add under discussions, a discussion of the Community Health and Safety Task Force Community Engagement Findings and Report and Final Recommendations. And that would go under 8B.
Are we also changing the next meeting date?
Yeah, that's another one that I didn't write down. Thank you for that, Aurora. Yeah, so our next meeting is actually February 7th. Not January. We are not holding a January meeting.
Are we ready to move the agenda as amended?
Yes, if there are no other amendments or additions or anything to remove, may we have approval as amended?
Move to
Madam Chair,
as agenda
Yeah.
as amended.
Eli?
can I just make a comment? With
Yes.
the presentation from the pedestrian bike folks, is that they weren't available, or did they give us notice that they weren't able to attend?
There was no response at all. So I told Councilor Garcia that that was an option and I was adding it to the agenda if he was available, but I received no response.
Okay, so we should just note that on the record that we
Yeah.
made a affirmative request for them to participate and they did not, or they didn't get
Yeah.
back to us, which
Right.
is okay, but we just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have Aurora making a motion to approve the agenda as amended, and the amendments are that we will not have a presentation by the BPAC committee. We will make a note that there was communication to invite them to the meeting, but there was not a response. And the other item, so we'll be removing that and then adding an action to not have a January meeting.
And then a discussion for Community Health and Safety Task Force, Community Engagement Findings and Report, and Final Recommendations
Okay,
under 8B.
8B, okay. So, okay, so you're going to substitute that for 8B.
Yeah, and then 8B will become 8C, just moving things down.
Okay. Okay, so Aurora made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay, Gina Maria. I will take a roll call. Aurora Black.
Yes.
Chair Gish,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Montoya Chavez,
Yes.
Miriam Jahar,
Miriam, are you there?
I'm here, just I couldn't unmute. Yes.
I don't
Thank
think we can
you.
hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Let's see.
Hello?
yes.
Yes.
She's
Okay,
muted.
good. Thank you.
Eli Fresquez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent,
Yes.
motion is approved, Chair Gish.
Thank you. Also, I forgot to ask all attendees if possible for you to type your name in the chat so that we have a record of your attendance, because otherwise there's no record. That was very helpful. I've written down your names, but hopefully I will get everyone. And if you can't, that's fine. Okay, Daniel Lopez is attending now. Next is approval of minutes. If there are no additional, we already included. Pam, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to ask that people attending this meeting could be identified so I know who everyone is.
I am.
in the meeting.
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
know
know.
why it's giving the weird code names. I'm seeing that myself.
Sorry about that, guys.
I'm glad you're here, Daniel. We need you.
I apologize. I was working on some language for Regina. You know how they do that.
All right, so next is approval of the minutes. May we have approval of the minutes as amended, because it already includes the edits that Aurora made, which I have to say I actually prefer. It's easier on me to have it be done that way. And then if there's any additional changes that are noted, I can just look for those few changes in addition to that, because it gives me more time to look it over. And it feels more concise to me. So if there are no more changes to those minutes, go ahead, Aurora.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
You know, they take the agenda and they just write minutes at the top and then just have all the agenda items and they add in who's present. But when we have action items, it seems like to me we need to say something. Are other people agreeing that we need to say something on the action, in the action section? I've been sending out little sentences for each one. Are people agreeing with that is what I'm asking.
Just where it says approval of minutes.
Chair Gish, can I add
Yeah.
a comment?
Yeah.
So the guidance or the direction that I received from the city clerk's office was that I would only provide the detail for items that are being voted on or that need to be recorded at a minimum. So that's roll call, approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes, and then any action items where there's a roll call vote. They said everything else is not necessary, and that's coming from the city clerks. So in talking with Regina, I was directed to I guess use the transcript as the record of you know, what goes on in the meeting, what's being said and what's agreed upon, because there's not a formal vote. So I will have to consult with city clerks to see if it's acceptable to add those extra notes on the discussion items.
Okay. Thank you. If it is, we would really appreciate that
Okay.
as an option. Also just for clarity and accessibility, because it does make it easier to identify what is going on in our meetings before someone has to read through 120 pages.
I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Okay. So if there are no more amendments to the minutes, may we have approval of the minutes as amended by Aurora's amendments?
Emotion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes as amended. Aurora Black,
Aurora, you're muted.
Yes.
Chair Gish,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Montoya Chavez,
Yes.
Miriam Jahar,
Yes.
Chair Fresquez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next is public comments, and I don't normally ask attendees to introduce themselves. I know that a lot of people don't like doing that, and so I don't really kind of put people on the spot like that. But we do have a guest, Nat Dean, who is Nat Dean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, Chairperson Gish and members of the Mayor's Committee on Disability. Trying to take my mask off briefly. I am honored to be called upon to introduce myself. My name is Nat Dean. I am a person with multiple disabilities, primarily a traumatic brain injury survivor. I served on the Mayor's Committee, used to be called Mayor's Committee for Concerns of Persons with Disabilities many years ago, for 7 years. It's been quite a number of years since I did serve. Chairperson Gish invited me to come to this meeting because I had made a public comment during the last city council meeting concerning the recent study on inclusionary practices for safety plans. It has a different formal name, which I do not have in front of me at the moment. And the comment that I made is that is disability a bad word? Is the scarlet letter D we wear with pride and honor when we have disabilities a bad word? Because in the presentation, it did not seem to represent marginalized populations, minority populations, populations at risk, populations who utilize different methodologies to communicate and move throughout the world, did not seem to be included in that study. And that was my perspective. So I always try and bring a positive note and message to be inclusive of the community of people with disabilities or disabled people, whichever label or moniker fits the people best. And my lived experience of disability is more than half of my lifetime, 39 years. My anniversary month is November. So I am a proud member of this community, and I believe that inclusion begins with every first step or every first roll or every first push or every moment of providing inclusionary practices. Thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce myself as a guest.
Thank you, Nat. If there are any other public comments, please raise your hand or type in the chat box. If there are any, I will read them. Otherwise, if there are no public comments, we can continue. And thank you, Nat, for being here. I really appreciate you joining our meeting and talking with you and all of that. It's been really, really nice. So thank you. So the next item is public comment on homelessness as a disability issue. The lack of housing and shelter space and current city practices that are counterproductive and are destroying trust between the city and predominantly disabled people who are unhoused, and how these practices impede relation building and progress to connecting people with housing services. So first, I'm probably just going to end up reading my notes because it's a lot, and if I go off on my own thoughts, I will end up on a tangent. So, homelessness is rarely identified as a disability issue, but it very much is, and much like much else, it is very much hidden that it is a disability issue and not discussed. First, why am I talking about this? This is a very personal issue to me. My dad experienced severe substance use for most of his life, and my mom experienced over a decade of chronic homelessness. I also have personal experience with living in a variety of different kinds of shelters while growing up. And I am a disabled person who cannot and will not go to an average communal shelter due to my disabilities and my personal experiences in those shelters. I don't know if you want to go ahead and talk.
I can wait. I just wanted to add that we did not have any public comments on the website. Thank you, Chair Gish.
Yeah, thank you. I also have lived under the Section 8 program personally and experienced discrimination here in Santa Fe and understand the issues with discrimination around vouchers and voucher programs. Second, why this issue is important to me is that I lived 1 block away from Pete's Place for 10 years. And I have personally seen and experienced all that you can imagine, both good and absolutely heartbreaking, of living 1 block away from Pete's Place. I am a person who eventually refused to call non-emergency police unless I knew that there was a true emergency, because I personally witnessed police increasing the mental distress of our unhoused community members. So I have personally witnessed, experienced, or been directly affected by much of what I am about to discuss. So about 2 weeks ago, we were driving and noticed what looked like, a big black, you couldn't really tell what it was, but driving by, it was very obvious that it was a tarp. And we realized very quickly that there was a person under that tarp. So we stopped and checked on that person because it was literally below 20 degrees at the time and it was freezing. And we approached this person, we talked with him, and in that time he told us several things that are concerning. He introduced himself as a veteran, and in the discussion it was very obvious that he was disabled and a senior. And he was very clear that he was cold and that he wanted housing, and that he has tried several times to get housing unsuccessfully. He was very clear on the reasons that he was not going to a shelter, which is that he experiences severe disability and post-traumatic stress symptoms that impede any sense of safety while in congregate or communal shelters. And being in a standard shelter environment is unsafe and inaccessible to him. He stated that he has a tent, but that police told him that if he pitches his tent, he will be arrested and have his belongings confiscated. And he was very vocal that he would pitch his tent to be able to stay warmer if he wasn't under such fear of arrest and losing his belongings for doing so. As a result, despite it being below 20 degrees that night, he did not pitch his tent, and so he slept under a tarp. Because he was inadequately sheltered without the safety of his tent, his sleeping bag had gotten wet with the melting snow that day, and he had no other blankets because the shelters are not accessible for his disability needs. As he was not allowed to pitch his tent, he was forced to stay unsheltered and exposed to frigid weather conditions with a wet sleeping bag. My concerns around this entire issue is that first and foremost, it affects numerous people with disabilities that are losing their housing, not even for issues that they caused. It's because disability benefits are not enough to be able to afford the rents that are rising so rapidly. And sorry, I'm shaking. My concerns are that what he stated about the police threatening arrest, or even just feeling the threat of being arrested if he practices resiliency behaviors, to maintain his safety in such cold weather. And that he very much expressed distrust at that point when he had been or felt threatened with arrest. And that once an opportunity for building trust is destroyed by real or perceived threats, or messages are given around enforcing that the only supported behavior by unhoused community members is to go to current standard shelters that are not physically or environmentally accessible to disabled people, makes them feel dehumanized. And it reinforces their lack of trust and not accepting help or support. Because the support being offered literally is not accessible to them and does not meet their disability needs. And, you know, I read through numerous articles with the city, and they reiterate that over and over and over to go to shelters. But it is akin to making a person who is using a wheelchair climb stairs. In a lot of cases, it is literally physically not accessible and or environmentally accessible. And it is not defiance when a person with disabilities cannot comply with orders or requests to go to shelters. It is literally them saying it is not accessible to me. Other issues and concerns that all of this has brought up is that disabled people also get taken to hospitals, and they are coming back to find their belongings have been confiscated. Their belongings that keep them safe and alive, especially in this cold weather, have been confiscated or discarded by the city. And mental health holds are 72 hours. And if I don't know what the city is doing, I've heard several different things. But I can imagine that it would feel devastating to lose the last few things that you have that are keeping you going. And also to know that you can't seek shelter because the shelters are inaccessible. The number of disabled people and also seniors in their 70s and 80s is increasing exponentially. This means a need for ADA compliant alternative shelter accommodations are also increasing exponentially. Congregate or communal shelters that separate by gender are also not always accepting or safe for transgender people. While a person experiencing mental health needs does not mean they also experience substance use, many substance users are self-medicating for untreated mental and behavioral health disorders such as bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, and more. So they cannot seek shelter because they can potentially die if they stop using the substance abruptly. As a result, it is literally physically unsafe for them to seek shelter in current shelters due to physical shock symptoms from symptoms of withdrawal. In addition to this, for disabled people who are on supplemental security income, there are numerous federal laws that actually punish disabled people from seeking shelter. And I will read these in quotes because it is pretty horrific policies. So the first one I will summarize because it's too complex, but supplemental security policies require that we either pay pro rata rent or market rate rent. Sometimes fair market rate rent, which means that if you live alone, you owe all rent, food, and utilities. And if you live with one person, you owe half. This is on $914 a month. That rate now is making it increasingly impossible to live in the city of Santa Fe and actually maintain housing. If you cannot afford fair market rate rent or pro rata rent, the Social Security Administration reduces your SSI by 1/3, cutting your $914 a month benefits down to $600 a month. If a friend or person helps us pay rent or utilities or food, this also reduces our SSI by either the amount that they helped us with or by an automatic 1/3. This makes us dependent upon the people we live with to care for our needs financially, and if they can't, we end up on the streets. There are policies around shelters. The quote is, "Can you receive SSI benefits while living in a public shelter for the homeless?" Yes, you can receive up to the maximum SSI benefit of $914 a month while living in a public shelter for up to 6 months out of any 9-month period. So after 6 months of living in a shelter, you will lose over $300 per month of your SSI check, and your SSI will be reduced to $600. There is an egregious supplemental security income policy that I have titled in my notes, "Shelter Unfit for Human Habitation is not in-kind support and maintenance." In the Programs and Operations Manual for Transient Homeless Individuals, Living Arrangement Determinations, there is a quote that says, and this is their policy, "Although a homeless individual may receive food or shelter that they have not paid for, that food or shelter may have no value. Examples of in-kind support and maintenance of no value include discarded food, such as when a restaurant discards leftover breakfast items after breakfast serving hours end, and shelter which has no market value, such as sleeping in an abandoned building, in a park, or in a vehicle. Receipt of such items would not be countable in-kind support and maintenance." And what that means is that if you live in a place that is unfit for human habitation, the Social Security Administration will give you your full SSI check. But if you stay in a place that's safe with someone else, or you stay in a shelter, you can potentially lose 1/3 of your SSI. And so it is literally causing harm to people who are on supplemental security income. And my hope, of course, is that the federal laws will be changed, because those are completely inhumane laws. But that's what people are facing who are disabled and homeless. And so I made a list that I'm going to request to be included. Give me a second, I'm sorry. To be added to our priorities. And I will read it really quick, but it's 12 items. One is policies that prevent people from losing housing in the first place. So these are items that will be our mayor's committee be requested to be added to our mayor's committee member priorities list for 2024-25. Policies that prevent people from losing housing in the first place, grants to cover rent, repair grants for landlords on Section 8, support for people struggling to maintain housing, and most important, building integrated, accessible, affordable housing. 2, a moratorium on discarding the personal belongings of unhoused people during winter and cold months, approximately October through April, where they aren't a nuisance or a hazard. And for any city staff working with parks or public spaces to not discard personal belongings at hidden spaces, such as when it has been placed under bushes. Park rangers should be keeping and bagging all personal effects and identifying its location, and identifying it as lost and found, and not discard it until a longer time has passed, 72 hours minimum, to allow people who have been hospitalized, taken for mental health evaluations, or cannot get transportation to return to their location of belongings to not lose necessary personal items. If park rangers do displace anyone from their location, they need to give transportation or an alternative response unit ride to a shelter location of their choice all year, and not just under Code Blue. To support constituents to do outreach and trust building activities with unhoused community members, to allow our community to include people who have historically been excluded, ostracized, mistreated, and judged. This means not forcing relocation of unhoused community members unless they are legally required by being reported for trespassing or similar standard violations. Build fenced and secured pallet or tiny home communities, tent communities, safe parking spaces, all fenced off and secured, where community members can stay safe in safe separate spaces, especially if they have a documented need for such accommodations, such as referrals by mental health professionals, outreach, alternative response units. This is an ADA accommodation need to give alternate safe options to go that are not communal and enclosed shelters, and a way to keep emotional support and service animals to maintain a separation of space and protect belongings from theft. 7, to offer motel vouchers on nights where it is expected to get extremely cold for people who have a need and cannot go to shelters. 8, the alternative response unit is doing a fantastic job but are needed 24/7. Increase the alternative response unit support to be 24/7, 365 days a year. Nat, I will read your comment in a minute. So only EMT or alternative response units do wellness checks of unhoused community members. There should be no police presence in alternative response units as it only exacerbates mental health and disability distress responses. That was 9. 10, increase bus service and rides and provide free bus fare tokens or free bus service to all unhoused and low-income community members. There is not enough consistent bus service to get to shelters. Employed unhoused community members who need to get to work locations from shelters and back to areas for safe shelter. 11, safe substance use shelters with safe staff, monitoring, social supports, community outreach, so unhoused community members who are self-medicating are not forced to detox in unsafe ways that can cause physical harm in order to get shelter. And 12, universal basic income for disabled, low income, and unhoused people so that they can have a chance to afford shelter and housing and higher cost of living in Santa Fe. And Nat Dean made a comment that there may be a 7-day hold, not only 72 hours or 3 days for someone who is in a behavioral health setting. Many holds could be in a location outside of Santa Fe, so I would suggest a longer window of time. And thank you for that. So I will amend my my timeline from 72 hours to what? So Nat Dean says, because shelters are technically under the Fair Housing Act, service animals would be dogs or miniature horses, but a letter from a healthcare provider would include emotional support animals. So just to clarify that, Nat Dean, we had a cat, and we were asked if we could bring him, and they said no. So that you know, we did not know. He eventually was registered formally as an emotional support animal because he really was. But at the time we did not know the process of that. And so that was one reason why were not able to seek shelter in the shelters, because we would have had to put him somewhere. And that was already distressing enough to not have housing, let alone to lose your cat on top of it. So Nat, what, yeah, Nat, I will. Thank you. She says to reach out and she'll provide the documents under the FHA. Nat, what suggested timeline would you think for holds of personal goods?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, did you just call out Nat Dean?
Yes, yes. I
The,
said, go ahead.
I heard I got the question in the caption. I just wanted to make sure I was being called on. So the 72-hour hold for an evaluation or 7-day hold on an evaluation could be a bit problematic because you'd need the time to be able to get back to the city of Santa Fe to provide identification and claim your personal property. So I would add an additional day and potentially add an access steps for an access plan to receive the transportation from, say, Santa Teresa, which might be Peak Behavioral Health Hospital, back to Santa Fe, and that's all the way down south nearest to El Paso. Or you may be in, say, Central Desert in Albuquerque and then need the transportation back to the city of Santa Fe to present your identification and claim your goods. Because this is a public comment item on the agenda, I can consult with someone later if they want to reach out and then bring this back to a possible future agenda item for the committee, since I'm not a member of the committee. Thank you for asking the question.
Yeah, thank you, Nat. I really appreciate your feedback and input on that, because I was trying to figure out like the timeline as well.
Seems
So-
like 10 days.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking to change it to 10 days just because of the lack of transportation currently, especially. And also the communication time that it would take for someone to find out where their belongings are with nothing. They will have nothing, you know, maybe a cell phone if they're really super lucky. Nat Dean, go ahead.
This is Nat, Madam Chair, thank you for recognizing me. If the individual is in a hold at a provider facility, they would have processed an application for Medicaid, and the Medicaid can provide that transportation, or Medicare or Medicaid, or there are some other options through United Way. And again, I can go into further detail for a future agenda item, since this is the public comment window. And I will only be in this meeting for about another 7 minutes. My apologies, Madam Chair.
That's all right. I appreciate you being here very much. Thank you. So when we get to the next item, hold on, my agenda just got messed up. When we get to the next item, which is approval of the Mayor's Committee on Disability Priorities, if anyone needs me to screen share my list, I am able to do so. But otherwise I read it, and that's pretty much word for word what it would say. Daniel, you want to say something?
Yes, I have a little bit of good news.
Okay.
This week I was informed at senior staffing that we're going to have 10 pallets for people who are homeless. They're going to be housed at the Christian Lutheran Church on Pecos Street. It's going to provide 24/7 staffing. I did look at the design of the actual unit. It is accessible for an individual to live there. They'll have shared facilities for showers, bathroom, and things of that nature. And it's going to be inclusive for anyone involved. And on a side note, I did have a discussion with the mayor. He is supportive of this type of housing because he sees the greater need, and he recognizes that Santa Fe is in crisis when it comes to homelessness, and so he shares your concerns. And I know a lot of people at the meeting did share their concerns.
Yeah.
So and we do have funding and with the Veterans Advisory Board for veterans. I believe they have about $52,000 for shelter assistance that they're doing. And I just became their new staff liaisons, and they're going to be in helping me understand what's involved in that. So there's some good news there. And with all that new affordable housing initiative by the city, accessibility is a priority. And so I believe the city is attempting to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I wish that they would have included affordable and accessible housing in their first project on Midtown campus, but
well, that's something different, but they want to not shoot off ideas off the hip. They want to really come together with a solid affordable housing program and initiative, and not just put something in the newspaper. They just want to really give it serious thought on how they can resolve the issue. I mean, go towards the resolution of this issue. I mean, it's going to be forever. This is a long-term situation for everyone in Santa Fe. I mean, it affects not just homeless people, but everyone who's trying to rent a place to live.
right.
And the cost, I mean, like we talked before about House Bill 99, that was going to give local city governments the ability to have rent control, but that never went to a vote.
Right.
And so citizens in each city needs to petition the state to adopt policies that will help resolve this growing crisis.
Thank you, Daniel. Any other comments? Go ahead, Gina Maria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now a clarification or a question about what you said, that at 6 months of being in the shelter, that people with SSD or SSI or both, I don't know, would lose their benefits. Okay,
So,
this is a bad thought, but is it possible to leave for one night and then come back and start over?
Not according to SSI policy, because it depends upon where you are as of the first day of the month, and then there are rules if you have it being implemented after the first day of the month. So it would apply slightly different, but it would still apply. To be clear, it is for supplemental security income, which is a means tested benefit, and it is a benefit of last resort. So anything that you receive counts against it. A person can receive $20 per month from anyone, and beyond that, anything that they receive in cash counts per dollar to reduce SSI. A person can, for example, if a person gets their electric bill paid for by their sister, that counts against them. And so it is extremely means tested. It is the most means tested program that is in the country. And unfortunately for people with disabilities, they also include the shelter that you receive if you are in a homeless shelter after 6 months. It is counted as in-kind support and maintenance. And that means that it reduces you by an automatic 1/3. Yeah. Angelique, go ahead.
Thank you for clarifying, Madam Chair.
Let's not forget that if a person is in the hospital for 30 days, they have to pay that entire income back.
Yeah, they do.
So in some cases, they do lose their home, or they do get their utilities shut off or whatever. So that's another issue.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, Angelique. Because that's true. So you get $30 any month that you are in a hospital, because they don't count that you have rent and utilities to pay in order to maintain your home while you are in a hospital. They feel that you have your housing and shelter and food for that month because you're in the hospital, and therefore you're covered. And so whether you have extra money or have people, who can access your bank account, if you manage to save, $600 on your $914 per month, maybe they can cover your rent for you for that month, but you literally lose your SSI benefits for that month. Yeah. And after 90 days, it gets even worse. So yeah, these programs literally are causing homelessness. Yeah. So, I think we should move on, to the next item, but I really, appreciate this, and I will read, Nat, your last comment. Nat says there is a reference manual for accommodating ESAs and service animals under domestic violence shelters, which also can be translatable to unhoused persons in shelters, which can be found on the website of the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence, which was modeled on policies out of Seattle. And then she provides a link, which I would request to be included in our minutes. And then, but I cannot read. And so if that can be copied into our minutes, I would really appreciate that. So the next item, and thank you, Nadine, I know you have to go, but I really appreciate you being here. And I hope that if you are able to attend future meetings, I will keep including you on our my mailing list. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, she says that it's an accessible link, which will read the document out. So it might not be the best link for all persons. Thank you, Nat. So the next item is action items 7A, approval of the 2024-2025 Mayor's Committee on Disability Priorities. And then edits, updates, added, items removed. One thing I do wish to remove is to hire an ADA coordinator, because we have Daniel. And so that is, we accomplished that.
Woo!
Yeah. Otherwise, what did I do? If
It
there are,
is-
go ahead, Daniel.
These are real issues that people who don't have disabilities don't understand that 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 we're all susceptible to this. I mean, we joke around about our diets and being overweight and diabetes, and we're just one episode of becoming permanently disabled and being in the circumstances that are a true nightmare. And these policies at the federal level, I can't understand why we can't change it as a people. I mean, so when we have a government that is so unable to get it together, time is our worst enemy. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people hanging by a thread right now that need government to work. And so that's why our committee can encourage our government to speak to the larger governments. And that's the role of this committee, is to help be that voice.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
Daniel. Eli?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what everyone was saying. And Madam Chair, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think we all know it, but framing it within a spectrum of disability rights can be really helpful. And just to even take a step back, we live in a capitalist society, and there are lots of inequalities that go along with that. But one way of framing it is to see this as an investment in our families and in our communities as a part of the care economy. As we have an aging population, we're going to be really working on how do we make sure that we're caring for older adults, children, people with disabilities. And I really see this as an investment, an investment from the point of view of economic value. So it's part of our social structure. It's the right thing to do, but it's also, again, it's helping to support the overall economy and to provide value to our society. So it benefits all. It's the right thing to do. And ultimately, it's an investment in ourselves.
Thank you, Eli. Absolutely. So one thing that I will request for my items, I tried to make it as clear as I could and just visible for myself because the list is quite long. But on page 6, where it says remove city policies to destroy safety and trust and replace them with policies that increase and promote safety and trust, and create laws allowing legal ability to use tents on nights in unobstructed public areas when temperatures are below freezing. Shelters are not accessible to disabled people. The 12 items that I have, I would request to replace those 2 items with, because that was more clarified and actionable for those 2 items. But that was my summary of my thoughts and as I was processing this experience. And so that is what I would request for it to be included where those 2 items are. And also to clarify, the suggestions that I received that are on the last 2 pages, those need to be organized better. And so that was why I just included it, because I didn't have time to make them more concise and to add them to where they needed to be added. But that will happen, and I can do that. And I will check with, I know who wrote what, so I can check with them to make sure that the intent and message is clear when I, hone it down to make it more of an actionable item.
Are we doing comments just on the page, on some of the other stuff too?
Yes, yes.
Like on page 1, the 4th bullet from the bottom, it says establish awareness of PTS. But
Mhm.
it seems like the one, two below, building community awareness is the same thing, but just more expensive.
Okay,
So
I
maybe
can merge
just
those two.
knock out that short one, huh?
I can merge them, yeah.
Yeah. And then one thing I noticed was, especially since we've been talking about language, is there's several places where we need to fix it. Like how we say low income or disabled.
Yeah, I know there were several sections that said poor instead of low income.
But it seems like if we're
it's-
gonna say people with disabilities, we shouldn't really say low income people. It kind of sounds, ugh. I
Yeah,
mean,
we could change it to people with disabilities. Let's see.
yeah,
So
but
one
also
example,
people who are low income, instead of low income people, it kind of, it's like you're saying you're second class.
yeah, no, I agree.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so, and then the other thing I was gonna say, somebody commented on the permanent dashboard display of disability parking. I think we should remove that one. That was a good
Okay.
comment, whoever made that. And then
do you know what page that's on?
that one is on page 3. It's the bottom of the first section.
Okay. Yeah, and I changed it to be seniors because that's consistent with the language that the city uses. Where I could. And then we also had a question, and I know Eli, this is for you. Under health and safety on page 1, it says disability integrated recovery mitigation. And there was a request for clarity on what that means.
A lot of words. Did I write that?
Yes, you did.
Oh boy. What I think I was going towards, that would have been a while ago.
Yeah.
Was integrating disability into emergency management, all phases, that being preparedness during the event, recovery and mitigation. So thinking about all phases of emergency management and integrating disability into that. Unfortunately, what often happens in the emergency management world is you do what a lot of people do. You plan for what you see in front of you. And many emergency managers and many people in the industry aren't people with disabilities. So they plan for their what they see, right? Which is not often people with disabilities. So it's really important to take a step back and work with our emergency management folks and encourage them to incorporate the best practices, the guidelines, the legal requirements, 504, ADA, et cetera, into the all phases of emergency management. So that's what I was going to. It's really integrating, and it's an ongoing process. You get a plan, you start working on the plan. It always is evolving. Once you're done with the plan, you go back, you revisit the plan, you test it, you exercise it. Hopefully you don't need to use it, but sometimes you have after action and you consider how to make sure that we improve the plans. And like I've always said, and like we're always saying, when you include disability, access, universal design into your planning, you make better plans for everyone.
Yeah. And with that being said, I mean, we our limited resources for emergency management currently, right? Everyone knows it's a one-man shop at this point. And so we're gonna have to really start building that up. If it's not staffing it, at least it's including the various departments that will be involved. And so that's what we need to start. It's a little hard to, I mean, again, that I'm a one-man shop too. So those are on our radar, and it's not going to be an easy fix right now, but we are aware of that. I mean, again, we were talking about the kits too, and the kits, they're limited. I mean, they don't provide group assistance. It only provides one-to-one assistance. And so that's another area that we got to revisit.
And then also, thank you, Daniel. Also, I was thinking, Daniel, where the items are identified, where it says pending need update, and I tried to make those obvious.
Sure.
Those are items that have been pending for at least 3 years. And so
Yeah.
we need-
Pre-pandemic.
yeah,
Yeah, but still, yeah, that's real. And I think a lot, the pandemic really destroyed quite a few cities, and not just infrastructure wise or even services or anything. Just overall motivation came to a stop. I mean, people revisited a lot of things in their lives, and we're still recovering psychologically from what happened, and so we're all in this together. So the good thing is we're trying to see things more positive. And I know that you guys have been waiting for solutions on, and this is a difficult ask to say. I'm working hard as we can to get those solutions going. How fast can we get to the end? I can't tell you, but I know that the positive feedback I get from everyone in the system is hopeful, that it tells me that they want to do some good things. So if that has any value, I want to let you know that the government itself is in support of the needs being met.
thank you, Daniel. And there's a comment from Gina Maria that says emergency management is supposed to be whole community. And I agree with that. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
And then I do have one thing to add that I forgot to add in the notes, which is that while there are senior vans for the senior city van service that are accessible, my mom did experience a senior van that still required her to use a step stool. And so I don't know how to get those to no longer be used, but it is unsafe for seniors to be using step stools to climb into vans. And that should have been done away with years ago. And so if we can get more accessible vans that are safe for seniors to use, that would be fantastic. In the meantime, I mean, it's just a basic safety and liability issue, for seniors to be having to step on step stools to get into vans. So I want that noted in our priorities, because that is a pretty
Oh God.
priority. Yes, exactly.
That's just one more thing I have concerns with transportation. Now I get to, oh boy, and when I get out there, oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm adding that to my notes to not forget. And Gina Maria says, how would I get in? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and my mom isn't, entirely, physically not able, but just the idea of balancing on a step stool to get in for any senior is going to be really difficult. So
even for me,
yes,
even for me,
me. Yeah.
I'm actually at my age, everybody worries about falling.
Yeah.
And that's a scary feeling.
Yeah. And it can cause significant disability if somebody falls and breaks a hip or a knee or an ankle. Seniors do not recover as easily. And so that might cause permanent disability.
Just one more thing.
So if there are no more additions, I know that we have an incredibly comprehensive, lengthy list of priorities to send out. But what I can do in the next week, if everything that we want in here is included either through discussion in this meeting with my 12 items that I listed for resolving the systemic barriers to shelter for unhoused community members, or it is in some way or another in this packet already, or is mentioned in this discussion, I'm more than happy to compile all of these and send everyone the final draft.
Yes, we need the final draft.
Yeah,
Especially send it to Vicky because
Okay.
she's going to be the person who's going to be helping us the most.
okay,
I have marked my copy with the where we need to change language, and I can send those to you.
yeah, that would be really great.
Yes.
And then one thing that I'm concerned about, is if we don't hold a vote today to vote on all of this, all of these changes, and there needs to be a final draft compiled, that won't happen until February. Unless we hold a special meeting, which I'm more than happy to do, or try to do. I tried before, but it didn't go through. But I'm more than happy to try to do that just to approve this to go through before, I would say mid-January. I don't know when the discussions are happening for the budget.
For clarification, are we having a meeting in January officially?
No.
Okay. Did you hear that, Vicky? Okay, so February is our next official meeting coming up.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to call, I mean, do you want to call a meeting just for that item?
Yes, I mean,
Um,
if it's going to delay it so that it doesn't get included being sent to staff and then the budget goes through, that's what happened last time. And then,
Unless you want to make an action item where you adopt it with the amendments now, is that possible?
Yeah. That's what I'm asking, is I think that we've had a discussion enough to identify everything. I'm willing to reach out to everyone to make sure that their item is as clear as possible in the final draft, before everything is sent out to city staff.
Okay, good.
So-
And then, so we're gonna need a motion for that. Someone's
Yeah.
gonna need to do it.
So Pam, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I just heard that last statement by Daniel, but I am hoping I can see a final draft before I vote on it. Is that what we're talking, holding a special meeting? I don't know why we're not meeting in January either.
Because it's too hard for me
So
to get
I'm
it.
kind of like,
Yeah, because it's too hard for me to get a packet and everything together with the Christmas break coming up.
Yeah.
It's next to impossible, really.
And plus, I think everyone in the committee probably could use the break.
Yes.
So, Madam,
did I hear it
Pam.
correctly? Did I hear it correctly that you will provide us with a comprehensive draft before we vote? And I don't care if there's a special meeting for it, but I would really like to see it.
What I'm asking for is to hold a vote to approve it as amended. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to send everyone the final draft, but I'm going to accept feedback to update it before it goes to city staff. So there will be an ongoing discussion to make sure that the final draft is clear, concise, organized, accurate before it goes to city staff.
So let me give this a shot. Someone in the committee has to give a motion to allow the chair to incorporate the amendments, provide a draft, and that if no one has any objections, then it could be submitted to city staff as amended. So basically, it's a live document until it's sent to staff. If that can be a motion, then she can make those changes and everyone else can contribute. And then that final draft is what is going to be the result.
I so motion.
There we go.
A second.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm sincere about all of this. I want all of this to be this is our document. So I want everyone to be clear and understanding what every item on it is. So, yeah.
I would say I'm clear so far, except for the part that says other miscellaneous.
Yeah, that was just to allow for a conversation if there was anything to include. Yeah.
But those are not really a part of it, right?
No.
Okay. 'Cause
And
I
that
think
will be
everything
removed
else
in the
is
last,
pretty-
that will be
pretty
removed
much
in
in
the,
there. Huh?
what?
I think pretty much everything else is in there
Yeah.
with the expansion of what you did for the homeless.
So do we need to take a vote?
Yes.
Yeah, I
please.
second Gina Maria's motion.
I think Pam seconded.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, so roll call vote for the motion to include amendments to formulate a final draft to send to city staff for the MCD priorities. Aurora Black,
Yes,
Kendra's excused. Chair Gish,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Montoya Chavez,
Yes.
Miriam Jahar,
Yes.
Chair Fresquez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you, everyone. Make sure that this is organized. 1 second. Okay, so next is approval, item 7B. Approval of the letter of support for the bike paths and for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, resolution of maintenance and installation of bicycle and pedestrian facilities. That letter, if someone needs me to pull it up, I can on the screen, but it's in your packet and you should have had a chance to read it. That is as final of a draft as I could manage to write with everything being in it that is known. And I want to clarify that one thing I was doing while I was overthinking all of this was reading through all of the budget and everything that they said, and I realized that 99% certainly the funding that has been allocated for private sidewalks is actually for enforcement and review of work that has been done and not to pay for private sidewalks. So that is a whole other issue that we can bring up later on, but that's how that is right now. So it's not private, it's not funding to pay for sidewalks for seniors and disabled people who can't afford it.
And Regina and I had a discussion about that, and she's in support of that concept, and agrees with your interpretation of what's the reality. And so yes, down the road we will be looking at that possibility and make sure we address anything that may legally inhibit it. We want to make sure we do it right, and the amounts of money is still up for discussion.
Right.
But the whole concept is supported by staff.
That's good to know. Thank you, Daniel.
I have a couple of edits.
Yeah, go ahead.
Small, in the first paragraph, on the 5th line, it says pathways and sidewalks. I would put and maintain clear signage. And then on the 5th bullet, it says provides infrastructure. I would say provides that the infrastructure exists to assure that sidewalks, blah, blah, are not obstructed.
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
The 5th one,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
right, it says.
Oh yeah, I agree. Okay, so provides that infrastructure exists.
That the infrastructure exists.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I have a note where I was like, something needs to be edited, but then
Yeah,
I
it was
where
confusing. Yeah, not
Yeah.
quite, almost there. Yeah, and then we have one language thing in the 2nd paragraph. We should put for citizens of Santa Fe who are senior or disabled.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I got. That was great.
Thank you. And Aurora, I will check with you to make sure that your edits are included before I send it off, just to make sure that I got everything right, okay? So I will email you my final edit before I sign it, okay? Let's see. So if there are no more edits or amendments or changes or things to add or remove, may we have a vote to approve this letter to support the resolution of maintenance and installation of bicycle and pedestrian facilities and the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee resolution. that was a long line. I'm sorry.
I so move
Hey,
that long
Madam
line.
Chair, I want to take a step back. Did we want to, is that ready to vote on now?
Yes, that's my understanding. I mean, if something really does need to be changed, because this is just to support the resolution. We were asked, and to be clear with everyone, we were asked to join their committee meeting to potentially discuss all of this, although there's some confusion about what exactly to discuss. But that to me is in addition to this. So this is from the mayor's committee specifically to support what is viewed in the resolution, but we do have edits and suggestions, and I know we discussed that. But we are basically supporting the content of what it does for the community. This is not to say that it is perfect and can go. We know that disability language needs to be implemented. And so we will work on that part. But this is to say what it does as is. But when we're having that discussion with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, we can help to clarify their language so that it even supports this to a greater extent. And that's my
Yes.
plan. But as it is, it actually does a lot. It's just not clearly inclusive of disability needs as much as it needs to be.
I
Great.
thought it
And
was
that's
great.
why-
Take
and that's
some
why you're-
ADA event, viewpoint and everything.
Yeah, and that's why your participation as a committee, physically going to the meetings and contributing is going to bring that about. So yes, and they are open and they support disabled pedestrians and athletes and all of that for the trails. They want that to be inclusive. So you have staff that's supporting and going in that direction. So you're coming into the fold, as they say.
And Eli, thank you, Daniel. And Eli, one of my thoughts on this is to present this letter to them when we present. So we will not give this to them until we have stated what our recommendations are. And then we will say, on behalf of the mayor's committee, here is a letter of support for this resolution. So they will have our edits and recommendations to have inclusive language within their resolution prior. And then they will get this letter afterwards and be presented with it.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like they're open and they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
Perfect.
They are.
And then one question I had, I know it says to Mayor Weber, City Attorney Aaron McSherry, City Council, Regina Wheeler, Daniel, and to whom it may concern. I don't know if there's anyone else specifically that should be listed that I'm forgetting. I know those are the main people, so maybe
Those are
the
the main
city,
people.
city manager. I don't know if he would be over this.
Yeah, I would say that. Put city
Okay.
manager.
All right. I will add city manager John Blair. Otherwise, is that clear with everyone on what is happening with this letter? What the intention is for me and Eli, that it will not be presented to the committee until we get a chance to share what is happening with the language, because it does not include disability explicitly, and it really needs to. So feedback, thoughts?
I thought it was really, really, really well written, and the line in it, Madam Chair, where you linked this was stellar.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
It's a lot of work and a lot of overthinking.
Of course it is. I understand that. And it looks like it too, because it came out beautifully.
Thank you. So Eli, I would like your thoughts and feedback if you are able, just to move forward on this, because I feel like you and me are tied to this the most since we're presenting. And I feel like that was my plan of thinking that we would be presenting this directly to them after we have our discussion.
Wonderful. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So if there are no more edits or anything to add or comments, may we have approval of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee Resolution Support Letter for approval. I don't know how to say that.
I so motion
Thank you. Is there a second?
for approval.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote. Aurora Black,
I don't think, is she still here?
did we lose? I think
I
we
think we
lost her.
lost Aurora.
Lost
so-
Aurora.
Okay, Chair Gish,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes,
Angelique Montoya Chavez,
Yes.
Miriam Jahar,
Yes,
Chair Fresquez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent.
Yes,
Motion to approve the letter of support for the BPAC resolutions as amended passes. Chair Gish,
Thank you so much.
approved.
Thank you. So next is 7C, creation of a disability proactive advocacy and event calendar. And Eli had provided me a calendar. 1 second. This I noticed, I'm gonna screen share really quick. But this I noticed is not complete, in that it doesn't include Disability Pride Month on it. But it is a really decent list that seems actionable, like the city could actually take action to identify and acknowledge these. And so, 1 second. Is everyone able to see this list? Is Pam able to see it?
yes,
Okay. So this was civil rights and social justice observances, and then disability rights and accessibility observances. So March 1st, International Wheelchair Day, March 21st, World Down Syndrome Day, April 2nd, World Autism Awareness Day. April specific dates varies, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act anniversary. May, National Mobility Awareness Month. June specific date varies of celebrating the Olmsted Decision anniversary. Third Thursday of May, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. July 26th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. October, National Disability Employment Awareness Month. October 31st, Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act Day. And December 3rd, International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And the only thing I can think of to add, like I stated, was to include July for the Disability Pride Month. And now I can't see all of you, so it's hard to present like this when I can't see people's faces. But the only thing is, like, I know that there may not be anything for January and February. But if we can find something, that would be wonderful. But otherwise, this is actually a pretty decent list to acknowledge people with disabilities throughout the year. And so I would like to know your thoughts. I'm going to stop screen sharing now because I cannot see anyone.
Well, if you're going to do all that as a committee, then before those days come and you want something from the city to acknowledge, you would have to coordinate what is it that you want for the mayor and council to do in advance, and maybe working with the city manager so that way they're all on board with it before it happens. So that way you don't experience what happened in October with them taking the lead without input.
Right.
So if you want to drive these things, then I would say be ahead of them. And that means have it ready to go. You know, and that if you can think about all of that in January and prepare for the year, then that would be helpful for the whole year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that right now, since this list starts with March,
Yeah,
that
so
we would pass it in February and then plan for the year ahead in February, in the February meeting, and then share it with the city that we request that they include these throughout the year on their specific dates. And we would have to find the specific dates for like June, third Thursday of May, April, and things like that for 2024. But how does that sound?
a lot of, yeah, it's a lot. But and then if you want to have an activity associated with that, also that requires planning. And if it involves a department of the city, then you want to make sure you're ahead of that. So that way it goes well. You know, you want it to go well.
Yeah.
And then also we can get the city to put it on its website, its social media stuff to promote it as well, if the city's behind it also.
Yeah. Angelique, go ahead.
Is there room to add others?
Yes.
September is Microcephaly Awareness Month. And then October is Hydrocephalus Awareness Month. Those ones are very important to me. I don't know if there are any disabilities that directly impact your lives and that you'd like to mention in there as well, but I think it's important if it represents one of us, it represents a larger population.
And I was thinking too, thank you, Angelique, and I was thinking too, that even if we don't have the people power to do like an event or something, that I think that it still is important for the city to acknowledge it and, you know, publicize it in some way that is significant and socially able to be recognized, so that they are also engaged in disability awareness throughout the year.
At least as a social media post and a message from the city at
Yes.
minimum,
Yes, exactly.
even if it's not a proclamation, at least it's a recognition.
Yes.
And that's what that would recommend that at best. But the larger events like ADA celebration, things of those of real significance, we want to have something bigger.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so we want to, especially ADA Coordinators Day, you know, that would be
It's every day.
I was gonna say that's every day.
Except when he's late.
Right?
Yeah.
But you started off bad then, no?
I know.
We're teasing you. We're so thankful you're here. We are so grateful that you're here.
So Eli, did you have something to add?
I mean, that was basically it. I think
Okay.
it's prioritizing and
Yeah.
working out what we want to do to celebrate. Obviously, we're not going to be celebrating some of these at the same level if they're not even disability focused.
Right.
What I could do is take that list. I can add Angelique's excellent ideas and others, and then maybe even, I don't want to overdo it, but it might be
Right.
helpful. Add another column about our recommendations of what we'll do. And it could just be a couple
That would
bullets.
help. That would help.
You know, tweet X this one out, or this Disability Pride Month is very serious, and we want to really celebrate October and July. I think Global Accessibility Awareness Day also is interesting for digital accessibility. So yeah, I can put a little table together and we can have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be great. Yeah. Pam, go ahead.
Yes, I'm wondering if there's any way to include hard of hearing and
Yes.
deaf community.
Yes.
Yes.
That is the invisible disability. We need a lot of help with recognition.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I brought this up, because this was like a good foundational list to me. And then we need to add more things because there are so many days to acknowledge. I mean, it literally would be 365 days a year, but I think that there are priorities and focuses that are meaningful to us as the mayor's committee, and also a good start to this discussion and awareness. And of course it can be expanded, but this is our start. So Angelique, do you have more to say?
I did, or I do, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So in the past, I've hosted awareness walks for the two events that I did mention. And specifically for the Hydrocephalus Awareness Month, there is a walk that is hosted in each of our cities, and I host the Santa Fe Walk. And all of the proceeds raised go directly to hydrocephalus awareness. But there are several in our state, just so we know. But those ones are really near and dear to my heart.
Okay,
Excellent.
that's cool. So we can also ask, I don't know if it would be possible for the city to promote, you know, that, but if possible, we can ask them to. They would have to see, you know, what's legal for them to promote or not. But I'm putting a note so that we can ask them.
I think that's a great idea because hydrocephalitis is a invisible disability as well. This is Miriam Jahar, and I live with hydrocephalitis, so, and I have a shunt in my brain. So I think it's an important thing to put out there because people can't see how it affects you on a day-to-day basis, and or what the symptoms are, to recognize it.
Thank
And
you,
the
Miriam.
only treatment is brain surgery, right, Miriam? So
Yeah, shunt.
yes.
I have my shunt since I'm 34 years old. So, yeah. And it depends on the day on which way your pendulum swings.
Seriously.
All right, so in the meantime, thank you both. I really appreciate that, and I've made a note of what you've stated so that I can make sure to follow up on that. So one way I'm thinking that we could do this is to, you know, this doesn't have to be done right away. This is going to be on the February agenda. In the meantime, if you have any ideas or thoughts of what you would like on the city calendar for disability awareness, email them to me and I will include them. Me and Eli can include them on our list and think about actionable items that the city can do for acknowledging each of our calendar items. And so, you know, we know that July is going to be really, really, really busy. We have a really big month planned for July. So, you know, obviously our time is a little bit limited and it'll be a new thing to do. So we don't really know everything that's going to be needed yet to make July happen. But please send them to me because I'm not aware of everything and I can't find the lists were just too long. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing, but how do we make this to be, you know, actionable and usable for the city? So so that is my thoughts on the calendar, and thank you everyone for your thoughts and input and feedback, and think about February because that will be the month that we approve this calendar and send it to the city. Are there any other comments or thoughts on that?
Well, for the July events, Virginia did stress to me that I need a breakout of how much things we need for that event, especially because of the food cost and if there's awards cost. So put together a general budget so that I can give to her so she can include it in a budget request.
Okay.
For this particular committee. She's asked me to do that. So I've asked Eli, but I'm going to ask you again. I need something in writing from you guys. It doesn't have to be an official committee thing. I just need something from you guys so I can give to her so she can put it together in her budget request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Angelique, go ahead.
Are we guesstimating off of the estimates and proposals that we got from the last awards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so if there are no other thoughts on this item, the next item is 7D, discussion and actions needed for ADA disability inclusion and speech to be integrated into the State of the City address. And we had discussed this briefly before, to write a letter. And then everything happened and the letter hasn't happened. So, but I was wondering, Daniel, if you know when the State of the City address is going to be held yet? No? Okay.
I don't know, but what I would recommend, and I would ask that maybe as chairperson or maybe the co-chairs could request a meeting with the city manager to have that dialogue about having that included in the mayor's speech. And I say the city managers because he helps the mayor put that together. And I can attend that meeting with you so that at least he knows the seriousness of the issue. So that way it could be a good beginning in the year, because it's all coming together. And I don't think he intentionally omitted anybody. But again, like I said, if you want to be part of it, you got to get ahead of it. And this is one way to do it. Ask for a meeting, contact the city manager's office, and then send me an invite as well.
Okay.
And I will be there with you.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Pam, go ahead.
Yes, there is an accessibility feature if it's going to be held in the convention center. The problem we had last year is that no one, no elected official, no staff member knew of its existence. So no one knew how to turn it on for the hard of hearing. It's called Listen Everywhere. I have asked Melanie Moore for help with this. She's the one in charge of the installation and the overseeing of this system, among others, in the convention center. She has not gotten back to me about using CART and other forms of maybe AI to caption the presentation, because there is so much latency between the sound and the speaker. So a lip reader is confounded with this state-of-the-art system. It's not even legal. They have to provide an IR or an FM system for the hard of hearing and people with telecoils to access what the mayor is saying, or any event held in that facility. And so she said she perked up with the idea of AI and said she would get back to me. The event is traditionally held in March. I don't know the exact dates for this March, but it's not January or February. So we still have a little time.
So I say let's try to get a meeting set up for January, and if you want to come to that meeting with the city manager so that he's tuned into that specific need, and he can stress it to her, because she directly comes under him, and that will at least make sure they're not going to forget. Okay.
I would be happy to attend. It's there, but knowledge is not passed from one person to another.
And I could say it all I want, but you saying it adds significant validity to that, especially as a committee member.
Let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we include her in that. Okay.
Yeah. I will email everyone and figure out the time. Daniel, I have your schedule, so I know yours. But Eli and Pam, I will coordinate between our schedules and figure out when we have time, when we can figure out like when our open times are. Since it's a little bit further out, I think it'll be a little bit easier to coordinate. It's not going to be happening next week. So I think
find out January when
yeah.
You can find out from the city manager's office yourself when in January, and then you can plan coordinating with us.
Okay.
So that way we lock in the time with the city manager, because they're busy too, and let them dictate when that can happen.
Okay.
And make sure they understand it's about the mayor's address, the state of address, and that you want to help contribute to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Are there any other comments or thoughts? If there aren't, the next item is discussion and actions need for ADA disability inclusion. Oh wait, that's the one we just have. Office of Equity and Inclusion, newest updates from Daniel Lopez.
Wow,
item
I don't know if there's
70.
a news. I
Go ahead.
know that they RGT, the new monies that they got, well, not new monies, the extra money they got, they're gonna fund the position for $175,000. That's including benefits and whatnot. And so who knows what that means as far as salary. And I know that they're going to put together the job description and open it up for people to apply. They asked me if I was interested, if I was going to apply, because if I wasn't, they wanted me to help write the job description. And I said, no, I'm going to apply. So I can't help you with the job description. So I know it's not going to be an easy position. I don't know if they'll pick me. And if they don't, that's okay. If they do, oh my God. But they did indicate that they were going to pull in ADA and accessibility into that office because that's what they talked about. And so it's coming.
Okay. Well, that's at least somewhat of a positive thing to hope for.
No, this is,
yeah. Go ahead, Eli.
Madam Chair, sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm in my car.
Go.
So, really, good luck, Daniel. Like, you're obviously somebody very talented, and I know you would bring disability to the forefront. I wonder though, I don't know if we can bring it to the attention of whoever is drafting the job description, if this committee could have some input to add something about disability, the whole jazz, intersectionality of why diversity, equity, and inclusion needs to include access. So it's really not DEI, it's DEIA in my mind.
Well,
so I don't know if there's an
I can give
opportunity
you the
for
name.
us.
I can give you the name of the individual who's going to be doing it. Actually, her name is Layla, and she's the deputy city manager. She's job description. So if you wanted to get a hold of her yourself, Eli, and talk to her, and she can take your input or not take your input, it's up to her. And you as an attorney carries significant weight and validity. And I would ask that you identify who you are and where you work so that she knows where you're coming from. So that way she can listen carefully to what you're expressing to her. So yeah, I would suggest that you contact Layla so that way she can get it right. I don't think she intends to do it wrong, but with your help, she can do a lot. She can do real good things.
This is Eli. I appreciate that, Daniel. I can reach out, but I'm also wondering though if there's an opportunity for this committee, to have input, whether it's members of the committee or the committee itself. I don't know how quickly they're going to have the job description up.
She's working on it fast now. They want to get that filled fast.
Okay.
So I think you initially contacting her and then maybe asking her if she wants the committee or others to participate in that or at least give comments, then that's the ask you can have for her. If not, maybe she can pick your brain about it and then you can go from there. But I can't tell you how she's going to go about developing that job description. I'm not involved in that, and it would be inappropriate for me to be involved in that if I'm going to be one of the competitors. So there you go.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really helpful, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if there's any other comments from anybody else on this.
No, Eli, that was my concern too, because we spent so much time making the job description for, the ADA coordinator / equity and ADA manager position. And so, to make sure that the language is concise and clear so that a job description assures that the person who is being hired has knowledge of disability needs and will be including that knowledge in the work that they do. Yeah. Any other comments, questions? No, okay. Yay, Aurora's back. I couldn't see behind the captions. So let's see what else. So next is inclusive leadership, ADA, and disability adequate training for city staff. Daniel, is there any plans set right now for 2024 to do trainings for city staff?
2024, possibly, but right now I'm working on the transition plan,
Okay,
and the self-evaluation is the priority.
yeah,
I should be getting my software probably by January. We already got the purchase order, and then I can get out to the facilities and start breaking it down and developing that transition plan. As soon as that's completed, then I can begin planning the other components.
yeah, and I
I'll keep you
understand
guys,
that.
I'll keep you guys up to date, because again, I'm a one-man operation, but I'm working as fast as I can.
Yeah, thank you, and I look forward to that transition plan being completed because we haven't had one in a while. So,
Once it's in, the way I visualize it, once it's put together, then we can update it as we make changes, remove barriers. We can update it day to day if we had to.
so Daniel, why
Yeah.
don't you give a very brief rundown, because you only told me and Eli what your plans are and what's happening with that software as far as I know. So
Well,
why
the
don't you
software's
give a very
the
brief-
software's going to enable me to go out physically to the site, pinpoint. Let's pretend there's a picnic unit at a park that's not accessible, and they have, let's say, 5 of them. Well, I want one of them to be an accessible one, and I want it to be on an accessible route. And let's pretend there's no parking. So I would plot where I would want the parking space to be, and it would give me a longitude and latitude of exactly where the parking should be, exactly where the path of trail should be, and the exact picnic unit where it should be. So that way we can coordinate with another department on the installation of those items, because they'll have the longitude and latitude to put those things. And then once we identify those various barriers throughout the whole city about each facility, what's the common thing that needs to be modified, maybe we can coordinate knocking out specific items in a group. Let's say we need 500 doorknobs. Then we can order a specific doorknob for them, and just go have them installed if that's the case. It'll help us coordinate purchases, installation, things of that nature. If we can do it in-house, or do we need to bid it out? And then we can identify cost a lot faster. And with current information of cost. So yeah, it's gonna be a live document. But what I like about it is that we'll have individual buildings with identifying individual barriers that are currently in existence, and an idea of when or how we're going to be modifying them. So that way what section under ADA it comes under.
Very cool.
And
Thank
so,
you, Daniel.
so that way it's truthful. That way it's transparency at its best.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. So the next item is leadership trainings for the Mayor's Committee on Disability members. What I'm thinking to do is, and this is going to be a group effort of what we want, what we feel we need, what we feel we would benefit from. So it's not really like a public, thing. It can be if we choose to, or it can just be a private training with all of us. Like for example, through the Southwest ADA Center. But I wanted to put this out there for, to get your gears going and your thoughts of what it is that you want to learn more of. If it's, public speaking to representatives, if it's related to ADA awareness of laws, like updates of the laws or anything, we can start looking for those kinds of trainings. And this doesn't have to be done like right away. This is just for 2024. I included in the packet a pretty concise key components of systems change document, because it was actually pretty usable. Just as a reference manual, this is effectively what we are doing is systems change. And so it helps to know the parameters and what it is that it's going to look like. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion. It's not anything that can happen right now. It's very complex. But this is literally what we are doing functionally, even though it's not necessarily acknowledged as systems change. That's exactly what this is. And so it's how to think strategically, and it's how to plan strategically, to, you know, speak with community members, to speak with council members, to speak with the mayor, and things like that. And so that is, I think, to me, it's a helpful guide just to be able to focus on what we are actually doing, and the bigger picture around what we're doing. And so even though we have these small little goals that we are, you know, achieving, and I say small, but they're not, none of them are really that small. But it's not a full, you know, systems change. It's parts of each of the system. And so it was just helpful to me to look at that. And so I would really appreciate if you would at least become familiar with that, because I think that it helps to create a framework to be able to focus. But you know, there's YouTube videos, there's all kinds of things that also, if you look up systems change, that also help with understanding what it is that we're doing with organizing and planning and working to change policy, working with the city council to do all of the work needed to be done to advocate for disability to be included in the city, like in city reports where it should be, but is not, and things like that. So that is my plan for 2024 going forward. That's just an overview of it. But that is functionally what we are doing. And so anyway, I can't get into depth. I keep running out of time.
Well, as you were talking about all that, I was thinking about how this committee has to be approachable. And so,
Yeah.
so the leadership starts with the city management, because to affect those system changes come directly from that office. And the ideas sometimes come from there. So the closer you can get to that office and contribute to solutions, not just list of complaints, and you know where I'm coming from, to offer yourself as a committee as a place for solutions. And so one day maybe you could reach out to the city manager to come and have him present his office and what he can do for you and what he needs from you guys. So that way you can establish those lines of communication, of communication and expectations. So that way you can establish a stronger working relationship. Okay, and so that's why I tell you, you got to go out there, and you want to change the city, you got to go to the top and you got to work it. And as a committee, you can do that. Me, I just have to follow orders sometimes. And sometimes I'm in the middle. And like I tell Regina, you know, I walk a very thin line. Don't step on my feet because I'll get cut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I look forward to you guys working harder and more and smarter.
Yeah, and that's my point of like saying like what we're doing as a systems change, because it's more focused that way of like what do we need, who do we need to go to, what do we want, you know, what is the outcome that's expected, and like really honing it down and focusing so that
There you go.
everything that we suggest to the city is organized and we can just hand it over and then have those discussions.
And pick your battles carefully.
Yes.
Because you want to win something and not just lose everything.
Yeah. Aurora, go ahead.
Reading that systems change piece, it reminded me so much, especially of our leadership right now, and then and the way it's operating, and the so many different projects we're working on. But also it made, I mean, you can't, I think, just do it at the top, because it also made me think of like things going on in the city, like the dealing with the Entrada and the monument and all that stuff. It's not just top down. It's you've got to make cultural changes sometimes too.
True.
And that means you have to work with community. So you can't just do it at the top.
Yes, but you guys are representative of the community. And that's why I say you going to them is in that direction as community going to leadership.
Yeah. But we might sometimes need to meet with the actual community.
True, true.
So if there's no more comments, I think that we need another about half hour. We started late, so if I don't know if we need to vote. I know before we have just moved forward.
We voted last time.
Yeah, we voted last time, but then sometimes we don't vote. But Helona, do you want to vote to and to go for another half hour?
Do I have a motion to extend the meeting for half an hour?
Move to extend the meeting half an hour.
Second.
Roll call vote. Aurora Black,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent,
Yes.
Miriam Jahar,
Miriam, you're on mute.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I'm sorry.
It's
thank
okay.
you. Angelique Montoya Chavez,
Yes.
Chair Fresquez,
Yes, but with a comment, I want to thank the city staff for staying extra long. I know it's hard, so thank you for accommodating.
you're welcome. Chair Gish,
Yes, and thank you too. I appreciate this very much.
motion to extend the meeting by half an hour is approved. Chair Gish.
Thank you. So the next item is discussion of updates on city website, updated online form, the city website features and accessibility. And I just want to say that I did notice that Daniel followed through with creating a form that you can type in your personal information, contact information, and the issues or anything that you need to contact him for. The only thing is I noticed that it is about an inch wide. And
Yeah,
so
it's got to be improved.
yeah.
And they're making changes overall the system, and we've yet to have our meeting. And as I get the software in place and we have the transition coming in place, the whole look is going to change as well. And that's when I'll want the committee's assistance in choosing how it's going to look. But of course, I'm going to need somebody with graphics and all that stuff at those offices that are developing it to help me with it. And so it's an ongoing effort. But know that we're working towards making it look quality. And also the function of getting the grievances to me is going to be improved.
Okay.
So far, my understanding is someone tried to submit a grievance and it failed. And so that's something I have to look at further and make sure it works.
I can send you one and see if you get it. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone said they couldn't do it, and man, it's a lot of, it's going to be a lot. Once it starts working, it's going to be more work too.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah. And then the other issue, I don't know, there was like back and forth discussion of meeting with, I can't remember her name. Was it Michaela?
Yes, that's who I'm talking about.
Okay.
And again, they're doing some changes, and that's why we're talking about. And that's the person I would want to approach about the podcast idea. But because they're talking about creating opportunities in which it would put the city in positive lights, and that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what the mayor wants. He wants to do those kinds of things, celebrate good news, even if it's something that you think is small, but it actually isn't. It may not be newsworthy, but it's a success nonetheless.
Yeah.
And that's something that we want to promote, positive outreach to the community. And I think that's a good idea because that would put accessibility in a positive light, not so much as a complaint thing. It's more of a working towards building a better community. And that's what we want to change the way things are seen, you know,
Yeah.
because you can be negative all day and I don't want us to go in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so to clarify, one of the strategies that we were thinking to do is for outreach and awareness and also just inclusion, is to create a podcast, for disability in Santa Fe. So, it's one thing that we're looking at. We don't know when it's gonna happen or what it's gonna take. But that was just an idea that we thought of. And so, we didn't know if it was even feasible to do as the mayor's committee or as, with the city or anything, but it's good. It sounds like it would be. So,
Mhm.
yeah, very cool. Eli, do you want to discuss the other issues? I know we have an ongoing issue to meet with city staff regarding the overlay, text input, images, descriptions on the website, and that nothing has moved forward on meeting on that.
Yeah, thanks. So I think the request is still out there for us to meet with the city to talk about digital inclusion and access. We've made this request a number of times, and I don't know exactly why we haven't been able to get that meeting together. I think it's really important. The overlay is something on the website right now that universally we've come and explored what overlays do, and that it's not accessible on the website, and it's something that we want to work with the city on in a collaborative way to help improve the website functionality, accessibility, overall UX experience. And I think I don't understand quite why we haven't been able to have that meeting, but I'd like to talk with them, and we've made that request and make it collaborative and helpful for the city, for them to know some of the best practices that are out there, some resources we can share. Because, even websites are always evolving, they're always changing. Every day you're going to make changes to the website. How do we make sure that we have that ongoing maintenance and accessibility? And then if there's a new website that's being planned or big changes to the website, embedding accessibility into the process of web development is really important as well. And it's not something that all web developers know. So we'd like to share these best practices with the city.
Yes, and Eli, the reason why that meeting got canceled is because Michaela was who we were going to meet with, and right before the meeting, she got I don't know if it was the flu or something, but she was really sick, and she couldn't meet, and she was worried that she had caught COVID or something. She didn't want to give it to anybody, so that's why she canceled the meeting, and we haven't been able to reschedule. But I'm thinking that being the holidays and everything, it's going to be difficult to do that. So I'm thinking in January we need to just nail that down and have a time where we can meet with her, and they are looking at a new system for that. But I need to make sure that I get more information on that. One of the vendors sent me something saying that they're going to be accessible. They don't put in overlays on theirs. That was something that I thought was positive. They talked about Word documents and things of that nature and PDFs, and so that people with screen readers can utilize it on their own. Of course, everyone shares that not any one system is 100% going to meet the requirements of ADA or accessibility in general, but that we need to at least pick one that's not going to obstruct the direction of getting things accessible, like the overlay of accessibility. And like I said, I just need a general letter from the committee stating that you don't like accessibility and you would prefer that it be removed. Then I can take that to upper management to have that put into actions. Because especially if we're going to change the system, at least I can get it turned off or something, and then find out what's involved in that, as far as what are we paying for it, and then when does the contract end? that letter will help me open that door of discussion. So if you guys can get me that, I think we did take an action item on that, and it was approved that you guys could draft something for me. You don't have to indicate any kind of legal language stating that you guarantee we will comply if you do that. That's not necessary. We just need to know that the committee does not want to utilize accessibility any further. And that's what we need to know. And so that way we can move forward from that.
Thank you, Daniel. This is Eli. Two things on that. The first one is, well, three. First one is thank you for working with us and for identifying with the vendor, the new potential vendor, some accessibility features, and it sounds like they're heading in the right direction. However, I have yet to meet a vendor who doesn't say that they can provide web content accessibility best practices. And unfortunately, I've yet to meet a vendor who really can provide as much as they could. So that's what I'll say. So it really is important for us to be a part of that process in the
Yes.
early stages. It's kind of similar to new construction. You know, if you're going to have an architect build new construction, you want to make sure that they understand the ADA standards. Sort of similar thing. The second thing is, you know, I'm not really sure what a letter would do, and maybe I could open it up to the rest of the committee for their thoughts, because to me, I'm not sure why. The city has in the past said that their website's accessible because of, and it's been very unclear on what
That was the
why
past
they.
city. That was the past city clerk. Okay, and now we don't have that clerk anymore, and we have the new one. And I know that I can convince the current city clerk to take it off if I have something in writing from the committee. Because we don't know when we're going to have another city clerk, but something in writing from you guys will help me initiate that dialogue, initiate them to push to change that, to remove accessibility, at least turn it off, so that at least we're not going to make it 100% accessible. At least we'll just make it a little bit more bearable as far as that is concerned. And I just got an email from the vendor outlining some of their accessibility components. What I'll do is I'll share that with you and the chair, Ms. Gish, see what they're talking about. They said they have someone on board who keeps up to date with the new changes on accessibility and web content. I take that with a grain of salt, but then again, maybe they are. So let's see what they've got. But I do need something from the committee so that I can begin to help me remove the accessibility feature. That's what I need from you guys.
Does it involve like if we held a vote?
No, it doesn't.
Have to
I
write a
think
letter?
you already held a vote and said that you could draft something to that effect. No legal liability language necessary, just that you're expressing the concerns of how it impedes accessibility.
Because the only thing that I feel like I could say is that it's not a requirement of the ADA to have an overlay.
There you go.
Yeah.
However you want to say it, or the fact that as consumers, it has a negative impact, and that you're requesting as a committee to remove it until a better solution can be identified. Something like that. But that you're not holding, and then that way the city feels able to say that in good faith it's making its efforts to provide accessibility, and that would be that it listened to its committee and its recommendation to remove that feature that impedes accessibility. And that's how it helped them to at least have some safe harbor in the event that we're challenged in some fashion. Okay, that we're not with malicious intent denying the public accessibility, because we're not. We're working still on it. It's an ongoing effort with the committee's help. Okay.
Eli, do you have any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I'd be open to what others think. But I don't know. We're not here to be giving insurance to the city. We're here to providing input and advice. So
Yeah,
maybe if we frame it
however you want to frame it.
like, yeah, like that. And then that can be also a point of discussion for, like you said, Daniel, for something on the calendar in January with the city
Yes,
clerks. And we want to be collaborative and helpful and
equal
help,
partners in the
obviously
situation,
people.
in the solution. I think this
Yeah,
committee needs to be an equal partner in finding that solution. And that's the best any city can do, is that it talks to its committee. It takes into account everyone's input like this. I mean, you guys are the leadership for us, at least, to reach the community. And that's an important role you guys play in. So yes, it's not that you're giving us insurance. We're working with you as partners. No one can guarantee nothing. I mean, this committee helping us like this doesn't guarantee that we can't get challenged and can't lose a lawsuit. It just means that in good faith, we're trying to solve and provide accessibility to the public. And that's why it doesn't have to be so formal or so aggressive or so um, like you're on one side and we're on the other. It's not. We're all together. We're trying to solve this common concern. Okay.
Eli, how about you and me get together and see what we can identify of that where we are advising the city and not taking any sort of a role that could jeopardize the committee as well, because if we wrote it in a legal way.
No legal way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want anything to be, because it's not legal. It's literally just part of the ADA. It's identifying what is a matter of the ADA.
Recommendations and concerns,
Okay.
possible solutions. You can language it however you want to. Not thou shalt do this. No, none of that. Just something that helps us, and that'll help me open up the dialogue with leadership, and that's what I want to do. Because I can go in there and say anything I want, but it helps to have something from the committee.
yeah, that sounds good, Madam Chair. We can work on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is the ADA emergency kits, what's in the kits and the urgent need for vendor trainings, and Santa Fe
Yeah.
emergency planning. And so I know you had mentioned something earlier in the meeting, but so we have asked for vendor trainings to know how to use these kits. And so I'm wondering, you had stated something that sounded like they didn't do trainings like we need, but can you clarify?
Yeah, I mean, the best we can do is we're going to have to get Mr. Williams to break out the kit, show us I guess we're going to have to find a place to meet and look at the kit physically and actually let him demonstrate the kit to us. Because I haven't opened it up and I haven't looked at it. But what he's described is that it's really a kit that's designed to assist one-to-one people, not a group of people. And that's okay, but it's not something that's going to help completely in a real live emergency management setting. We need to see what those limits are and recognize that the kits are not going to be the solution for everything. And I don't think they will be. I think we do need to buy 2 more and have them in each fire station and get them aware of the need to communicate with the community of people with disabilities. That's what they can help us with. And then they can start doing outreach from those fire stations. There's about 4 fire stations that can begin to do that. And that's just the steps that I want to do as far as training. But the first training that needs to happen is that we need to get Mr. Williams to train this committee. And that means physically we all meet somewhere, maybe at a fire station, and look at the kit and see how it works. Everyone gets to learn, including myself. What do you think, Eli?
Thanks, Daniel. I'm wondering if the first approach, and I don't know if we've done this, but my understanding is that the vendor did provide training. Is that not
But
the
I don't know if
case?
I don't know if I can't say yes or no to that because how long has it been since we've purchased the kit and is that still available?
Well, I think that should be our first approach, is to reach out to the vendor. They're going to know the details of the kit. And if they are no longer able to provide those trainings, or they don't provide trainings at all, then maybe we go to a plan B, which is us taking the kits out and actually going through it. They're a little bit technical, so having the vendor there to really give us the instructions from them,
Okay.
I think would be really helpful. So maybe that's the first approach, is to reach out to the vendor first, find out if they have trainings, and if they don't, then we can do that sort of one-on-one pick through the kit and figure it out kind of thing.
Okay, so what I'll do then on Tuesday, I meet with senior staff and I'll see Mr. Williams at the meeting. What I can do is ask him to help put together that training with the vendor and see what his response is to that. If he says it can be done, then I'll ask him to when can he get it done so we can as the earliest possible so that we can get that. So for the next steps from this meeting forward is for me to talk to Mr. Williams and identify if that is a possibility. And if not, what is the next step after that? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That
Daniel.
sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And just as a broader point about emergency preparedness, I think there's sort of a human instinct to put it on the back burner because it's not happening now. But then when the event happens, whether it's active shooter or a flood or a fire, something terrible, right? And it's not a
Yes.
matter of if, it's when. You're always going to be like, dang it, I wish we would have done something more. I wish we would have prepared more. So thinking about even, the wildfires in Hawaii, like it seems so unusual and out of place and unfathomable that an entire community could be wiped out in Hawaii by a fire. It makes me concerned with the city. We need to have I think we should have a little more urgency on the preparedness side, particularly with our vulnerable communities. So I just want to make that statement because I think it is, again, human nature to kind of push things off and not think about that investment in preparedness.
Yes, and that's why I appreciate you guys. Don't ever think that you're badgering or anything negative by bringing it up over and over. No, continue to bring it up, continue to keep it in the forefront. It allows me to, again, like what I'm going to do now is go approach Mr. Williams, take some action, and every little step towards that is helpful. And it starts with you guys to continuously remind me. It's not a negative. So never feel that you're bothering me or something like that, or it's becoming a negative. It's never that. So I appreciate you guys bringing it up, and I will take action on Tuesday. I will get back with you, Eli, if at the very least, and also with our chairperson Gish, and that way we know what we're going to be talking about in January if that's the case. Okay.
Thank you.
Pam, go ahead.
Yes, I have met with Mr. Williams twice about this kit. And I think part of the problem with it is we didn't know what to expect from it. And it's, in my opinion, a very limited use. It doesn't address a bigger issue or even more than one person at a time. So I think we need to clarify that this is useful in XYZ situations, which is not addressing much beyond one-on-one. Second, I would like to know the cost of these kits.
$8,000.
How much?
$8,000.
Okay. Just personally, I'm interested in that figure because a lot of the things included in that kit are not all that expensive.
I know. That's
And
why I was upset.
I have had the occasion to put together kits for organizations to give accessibility to the HOH, the hard of hearing community. And if we decide to go forward with more purchases, I would really seriously like to investigate how much it would cost to put we have one kit, we need 3 more? Is that what our goal is?
Yeah, yeah, we need 2 more. 3 more would be great. And yeah, if we could put together our own at a cheaper cost, I would support that, because we were looking at, Regina and I were looking at buying 2 more and looking for a funding source, and there was no funding source available that we could do it. We even looked at impact fees, but they have a dollar amount that prevented us from using the impact fees. So here we are, scrambling that we're probably gonna have to request it in a budget request, and the likelihood of that passing is unknown. But if we could put it together cheaper, just by looking at it, then I'd say, let's utilize Brokology and put it together.
I would say that my 2 meetings with Mr. Williams, he is lacking direction or knowledge of what this is supposed to be for. A lot of it is accessibility for the hard of hearing.
Yes.
Without a vendor coming on board to specifically state what each item in that kit can be used for, and for someone to remember that in a fire department, in a one-on-one emergency, in even 2 months, for me as a person who uses this kind of equipment, it's very daunting for most people, much less in an, I can see what I interpret as Mr. Williams' hesitancy to just go forward and be proactive. He's intimidated, in my opinion, by the equipment and his lack of knowledge in its use, and wants someone to teach him, not
Yeah.
him to go out and find out what all this stuff is.
And that's probably what the overall big picture that I'm seeing is, that it's not just one man that needs to know how to do it or direct it, but that maybe the need of accessibility in emergency management, and emergency management itself, needs to go to the source of the police academy trainings, to include that as part of their curriculum, and to the fire academy to include emergency management preparedness at that level, from the lowest ranking firefighter, to know that there is a need to identify people with disabilities and their needs in those settings. And that's the core of it. That it just can't just be one department. It has to be the entire system has to be aware of it. I mean, people at City Hall need to know that in an emergency situation, there needs to be something that has to be done for people with disabilities in that setting, no matter what the emergency is. And that needs to be ingrained in us in trainings.
That ingrainedness, I know, using electronics
Mhm.
at my age was a shock when I
Yeah.
got my disability on top of my original disability. I got the age-related hearing loss, which rendered it impossible for me to function. So I have to use this equipment over and over to be fluent in its use. And that's one thing that really concerns me about it being stored at a fire department, even or a police station, even if they got trained when they went through their initial training. Without constant use of it, I really am concerned about cost versus use. And unless we can put it together, which a lot of that stuff is not rocket science, it is obtainable on the internet, just to order it.
And it's all going to change. It's all going to change on emergency to emergency to emergency. Not every emergency is going to be the same.
Some of this stuff is obsolete already, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's why it's going to be more than just the kits. And that's and Eli, you know that our emergency management and accessibility has come to the forefront, and it's still evolving throughout the country, especially in FEMA, and not everything's being met. And at our level, at our local level, we're going to have to reevaluate our resources, and most importantly, our lack of knowledge of to be done. We need to at least say, okay, let's identify some realistic emergency settings and work towards a solution. What are we going to do? And then that's a step in the direction. I mean, will it solve it? Will we make mistakes? Will we have gaps? Definitely we'll have gaps and definitely we'll make mistakes. But the kit is not going to be this only solution. It is may not even be a solution, but at least it will help us to bring up the dialogue.
Yes.
And that's the first step, to bring up that dialogue. And I can understand Mr. Williams' frustration that he's only one person in the department. And then if he doesn't know enough or can't see past what he knows, it's not deliberate. It's just he needs help. He needs our help.
Yes. It's intimidating for most
It
people.
is. It is scary. It is intimidating. I mean, I worry like you do, Eli, that tomorrow we could have a situation where we're not prepared for. And that's what I'm worried about. But I have only so much I can do in a day, and I'm working as fast and as hard as I can.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. And we do need to go to the next item really quick.
Excellent. Well,
So,
sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. So 8A is discussion and plan to implement inclusive city meetings. That is on hold for now until we figure out what we're doing, but I'm hoping that it will happen in January. We do have one city councilor who is still the co-sponsor of that plan. Like, he's one of the people who wants to make it happen, which is Michael Garcia. Rene Villarreal is, of course, exiting the city council. So I'm hoping that someone else will take on as to like co-sponsor if there's an actual idea written. But we will find that out as soon as possible. And then 8B, discussion on the City of Santa Fe Community Health and Safety Task Force recommendations and presentation. I just want to state a really quick kind of critique, which is that they, according to their own identifiers for what they included to create the report, they hosted 25 learning sessions. Local, state, national experts, including city department and division staff, engaged in over 300 City of Santa Fe residents with a focus on underrepresented populations, researched over 89 studies, including public policies, best practices, and data analysis, and contributed 6,190 hours of work. And disability is not directly mentioned in any way, shape, or form in that report. And so this is an ongoing issue with the city. And the thing that I am concerned most about is that the needs of the disability community cannot be continued to be ignored, disregarded, and unmet, and not being included in research data. Research data and reports is exactly how we get ignored, disregarded, and have our needs unmet. And so this report, they were saying it took them something like 3 years to complete. And at no time did anyone think to include disability or to interview people with disabilities. And so I will be bringing it to the attention more directly with Rene Villarreal and the people Chris Rivera, and the people who contributed to this report, because I am really concerned that they did all of this work and in reality, it's completely incomplete. And so their recommendations are incomplete as well.
Yeah,
So
and
that
so
was
much
the-
for inclusion. I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't,
exactly.
it
And they were
violates the idea.
they were so bragging about, and so proud about, including underrepresented populations, but they did not include disability. So,
Yeah.
So, I need
Real
to move
quick, Madam
on.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Go
It's
ahead.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you for bringing this to our attention. And I wonder if we want to highlight something like this, maybe in the form of executive training. I don't know. Or city council training for disability. It could be 30 minutes. As part of our priorities list, because I think it's really important for leadership in Santa Fe to understand the intersectionality and the components of disability and how it's infused in so many things, and how the disability law can actually be very strong and supportive of different kinds of initiatives to align with their values. I don't want to be critical of the report in as much as I'm sure it's doing very thoughtful things. I skimmed it. And it's going to help the community, but we think we can add value to it by infusing disability into it. So with that said, maybe there's also some training that we could either require or somehow push them to do as part of this, and we can put that in our priorities list.
Yeah.
Or request an addendum to the report.
Yeah, that would be, I can write that down. I think that I included in that in our priorities list that we give presentations to the city council, because we had discussed that, and so that would be under that item to have that going forward in 2024. So we can look at that and make sure that that meets our needs. But yeah, this definitely it is an incredible report. It is a lot of work, but it just confuses me as to how disability was never brought up or included directly, because it is such a comprehensive report, and the recommendations absolutely are fantastic. Like, these are really incredibly needed improvements to to our system as a city. So anyway, unfortunately, I need to move on. So the next is Mayor's Committee on Disability Subcommittee reports. Are there any? If not, we will move on to matters from staff.
Yes, Madam Chair, excuse me. A link to the video recording of this meeting will be added to the meeting minutes for the meeting.
Thank you. And then matters from the committee? No. Okay, so if there's nothing else, our next meeting is February 7th, 2023 from 3 to 5 p.m. on Zoom. Yeah. We will not be having a meeting in January. And if there's nothing else, we are adjourned at 5:39 p.m. And I thank you so much to the staff for staying. Really, really appreciate this.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you, Madam Chair, for all of your work.
Thank you.
A lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.